Hi, this is Brian Kaskavalciyan with G4 Marketing, and I'm here in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona, here with my very good friend Martin Howey. Martin is the CEO of TopLine Business Solutions, and Martin's got over 1,000, probably close to 1,300 consultants around the world. And we just had a very interesting discussion started a discussion about what's going on with the economy. What does the recent election mean to all of us entrepreneurs? And I wanted to know from Martin. I wanted to get his feedback. I wanted to get his advice. I wanted to get his input. So Martin, what do you think about what's going on?
Well, Brian, as you mentioned, we have consultants all over the world, and what has happened recently in the U.S. with our elections has some people very happy, and of course some people are not very happy with what's going on. Unemployment is at an all-time high. Well, not an all-time high, but it's up near the top of where it's ever been, and it probably is going to get worse as time goes on. At least that's prediction. The question, though, isn't where is it, it's how do we deal with this situation. Now, we have certain things that we have control over and certain things that we don't have control over. And what I mean by that is there are the controllables and the non-controllables. The non-controllables, the things we have no control over, are the weather, the gas prices, the economy, what's going on in Washington, what our neighbor does, how our neighbor drives, how they take care of their house. Those kinds of things we don't have any control over. But so many times we find ourselves talking about, worrying about, stressing about those kinds of things, which we have no control over. But there are those things that are controllable, and by controllable I mean we can do something about them. We can control the amount of exercise we get. We can control our health to a certain extent by watching what we eat. We can control what goes into our minds. We can control what comes out of our mouth. We can control our faith. We can control our attitudes, our outlook. Those are the things we have control over, and those are the things that we really need to be working on and focusing on. Now, the economy has created some situations that we as normal people, not politicians, but we as normal people really don't have a lot of control over. We can look at the same situation, two people can look at the same situation and come away with two completely different ideas about what's happening. Just for an example, we know that, and I got some information off the internet this morning that talks about people are going to be hit with a huge tax penalty for not getting health insurance when the Affordable Care Act goes into effect. It was estimated that 4 million people would be affected. Now they say that 6 million people are going to be affected because they've chosen not to buy health insurance. And that penalty is going to be about $1,200 and it's going to hit the middle class, right in the middle of the middle class. Well, that's not real good news for people in the middle class who are expecting tax breaks, right? It's talking about Papa John's Pizza, and John Schnatter, the chairman and CEO of Papa John's, says that the new law's healthcare mandate, because of that, the price of pizza will go up 11 to 14 cents per pie. And he says, he used gas prices, rising gas prices for the analogy, and he says, when fuel goes up, we don't like raising delivery charges, but the price of fuel is out of our control. So following that news, they said people are expected to go somewhere else. Well, we know that if our costs are going to go up, people are going to shop around. If our cost as families or individuals goes up, we need to conserve our money and probably shop around for the very best value possible. Now, value doesn't always translate to lowest price. You see, people are out there looking for the best deal they can find. And the best deal in some people's mind is low price. But best deal might be the value you get for the price that you pay. So in the case of pizza, pizza is transferable. We can buy pizza almost anywhere, right? So people are going to be looking for a lower price. But what can Papa John's do, or any business out there, what can they do to retain their customers? If their price goes up 11 to 14%, or 11 to 14 cents rather, per pizza, is that going to cause somebody to shop around? What can you do to differentiate your pizza or your product or service or whatever it is you have from all the other competition to make people continue to buy from you? Now, remember I said that two people can look at the same situation and come up with two different ideas. Well, one company in Las Vegas says that they lost a business owner in Las Vegas phoned into the radio station to say that President Obama's re-election forced him to fire 22 of his 114 employees. The man, who did not reveal his name or business, said elections have consequences, and at the end of the day, I need to survive. He said he warned his employees that if Obama got back into office, the regulations for Obamacare are going to hurt our business, and I'm going to have to make provisions. So he looked at the election and having President Obama reelected as a negative, a scarcity mentality. Now, someone else said, David Siegel, CEO of Westgate Resorts, was one of the first to exhort his employees to vote for Mitt Romney or face the consequences. But after the president was reelected, he said, I gave everybody in the company a raise this week. The average was 5%. I wanted to help them handle the additional burdens the government will put on them. Now you think about this for a second.
It's
Two
incredible.
people saw the same thing. They voted for different people, right? One says, I'm cutting back because we need to preserve our company, we need to cut our expenses. And the other one says, look, you guys are going to have you employees got us to where we are. And it's the old dance with who brung you thing, right? When people help you get where you are, you reward them. And he's taking money out of his pocket or out of his company's pocket to give these people something that will help them handle the additional expenses they have. That's going to cost him money. So how does one company do that and another company not? The difference is not in necessarily the product or service you offer, because you can buy the same product or the same service or something at least very comparable from any number of places. I mean, there's very few things out there that are exclusive anymore. Mm-hmm. You can find a knockoff of it or a pretty close duplication or substitution in a number of places, and oftentimes for less money. The key is, how can you make buying that product or service from you and your business more attractive than if somebody can go someplace else and buy it? And it all comes back to adding value. And first of all, it comes back to your mindset. You've got to stop thinking like you've always thought. You've got to start thinking now in terms that are different than what you thought before, and in terms of more service or more value. And I think that's really where it comes down to. Now, one more thing I wanted to point out here is this morning on the news, on MSN rather, I came across an article that says 15 companies hiring this month. November is a busy month with presidential campaigns culminating in Election Day and Thanksgiving kicking off the winter holiday season. November is also a busy month for hiring. Check out these 15 companies which are hoping to fill jobs around the country. Now, when we think of hiring in November, many times we think of hiring in the retail sector, right? Because we have the holidays coming up.
Getting ready for the holidays.
Well, listen to these companies. Here's a pharmaceutical company. They're looking for telehealth, registered nurse, senior accountant, compensation analyst, physician, account manager, pharmacy care coordinator. That has nothing to do with holidays. Here's another one. Cellular sales. They deal in retail wireless telecommunications. Another one. Crescent Processing Company. They're in banking and financing. Here's another one under public accounting. Information technology, administration, accounting, finance, and manufacturing. Another one under financial services and banking. Construction equipment's another one. Investigation services, telecommunications, oil and gas, healthcare, IT consulting, healthcare and medical records, security services and technology, electromedical and therapeutic apparatus manufacturing. In other words, none of these businesses that I've read off here, these 15 different companies, have anything to do with the holiday sales. Now, that's just 15 that MSN reported on. And you can go out and find all kinds of companies out there that are going to be hiring from this point on. Look, we can look at this election and we can look at the outcome and we can look at where we are right now as not a good time in our history, not a good time in our country, not a good time economically and financially for us. Or we can look at it like, hey, here's an opportunity. Now, if you think, here's this company that's laying off 22 of their employees out of 114, that's a big percentage of employees. Yeah. If I were their competitor, I would be looking at, here's a company that's having struggles. Here's a company that's cutting back. If they're cutting back on their employees, they may also be cutting back on the amount of advertising or marketing they're doing. They can't go out and advertise and market and bring in more business with fewer employees. It doesn't make any sense. If they're cutting back on those things, then the number of eyes from potential buyers are going to be fewer for their product or service because they're not visible in the marketplace. So if I were one of their competitors, I would be doing everything I could to bump up the amount of advertising, the amount of marketing that I'm doing to attract the people who are not seeing their ads. That's going to give me a competitive advantage. So you see, so much of this has to do with not what the reality is, but it's our perception of that reality and our action or reaction to that reality. What can we do as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as consultants? What can we do to take advantage of this situation? Business has to go on.
Right.
The business has to survive. The owner has to provide for his family, for his employees. The employees have to provide a living for their family. This isn't the end of business. I had someone write to me the other day and say, Martin, I'm really upset. I've been with my wife for 13 years. I've never seen her cry. After the election, she broke down in tears. And I have to admit, I cried as well. I'm looking at this thing as demoralizing and deflating. And how do I deal with that? And I went back and explained some of these things that we talked about here, that business is going to go on. We have to find a way to deal with it. We may have a few new rules, but business is going to go on. We just have to make sure we change. So just as we don't see Wells Fargo cars or Wells Fargo trains or Wells Fargo airlines, they were in the transportation business, or they should have been. They were in the stagecoach business. That's what they did, and that was the method of transportation, stagecoaches and horses. Well, where's Wells Fargo today? It's in the banking business. They're not in the transportation business. It's a matter of thinking where we are relative to our market, the changing of our marketplace. Can we now think in terms a little bit differently than we thought? Not in the stagecoach business or the transportation business. We need to be in, how are we going to get people around? Now that's a kind of a rough analogy, but it's the same thing. We need to start looking at our businesses as this economic situation, not as our enemy. How do we work within this to our advantage?
Well, yeah, and also there's a choice to be made. There's a choice for, am I going to, whichever way you happen to lean, however you take this as good news or bad news, the choice is, am I going to lay down and, like this person that sent you the email said, I'm crying and I'm depressed and I'm miserable and I'm going to roll myself up into a ball and I'm going to let this affect me for the next 4 years? Or am I going to make a choice to get up? It might be a little bit harder, but I'm not going to give up my lifestyle. I'm not going to give up my business. I'm not going to give up my employees. I'm not going to give up growth. I'm not going to give up on my goals and my dreams and my aspirations. I'm going to move forward. And it's going to be a little bit harder probably, right? Next 4 years could be good, could be not good. We don't know. But for us as individuals, we get to choose, right? That's why we're entrepreneurs. That's why we're business people. Instead of being at somebody else's mercy, we're kind of at our own mercy and what's going on in our heads, right?
Absolutely. One of the things, Brian, and so many business owners are so tied up in running their business that they don't have time to step back and take a 30,000-foot view of this thing. And that's where, when you have a consultant or somebody can come in and say, hey, I can see things in your business that's not going on, that you're not doing, that you should be doing or could be doing, that would be more profitable for you. They need to start looking at those kinds of things. Many times, in my case, for instance, I could figure out how to do my taxes. That's not what I want to do. I absolutely hate doing that kind of thing. But I have a CPA that absolutely loves it. So I outsource that to him. I don't cut my hair. I know it probably looks like it, but I don't cut my own hair. I outsource that to a barber. I don't wash my own clothes. Now, don't tell Cheryl this, but I outsource that to her. I don't go grocery shopping. I outsource that to my wife. Right? Reality, that's what happens, right? We don't know. We have somebody else do it for us. And she absolutely loves that kind of a thing. Well, I'm not sure she loves doing the laundry, but you understand my point. There are certain things that we are good at, and if we find things that we aren't good at, and maybe that has to do with dealing with the new economy, getting more customers, converting more customers or more leads into paying customers. Maybe it has to do with generating more income or providing more service. If that is in our area and we're lacking in that, then we need to look at outsourcing those kinds of things to people who are good at that, and that's what they really do. So it may cost a little bit to do that, but you have to figure out what is the cost if you don't do that. See, if you're good at doing what you do, and you can bring in 20 customers a week, we'll say, and that's all you can do. But if you could find somebody out there that could bring in 40 customers a week, it's going to cost you to get that person to do it. But when you look at the return you're going to get, it may well be worth the fact that, what if you just broke even? What if it cost you the same to attract those 40 customers that you had to pay your consultant to do that? So you broke even on that. And what if it even cost you a little bit more, just as an example? I'm not saying that's what it would, but just as an example. That's okay, because you know you're going to have those customers next month and the next month and the next month. We have to take a longer view of this.
Well, and that's if, you know, you're saying you're going to have that customer next month and the next month and the next month, and that's something we work with our clients with. And I think people have to understand, really more than ever before, how important that customer is. And when you get that customer and you bring that customer in, you better do everything you can do to make that customer feel special, to make that customer feel welcome, to make that customer feel like you are the absolute best solution for whatever it is, whether it's laundry services or haircut or accounting, whatever it is, so they don't go somewhere else.
Well, here's another thing, and I'm glad you said that, because that triggered something else for me. If you don't believe truly that your product or service is the absolute best option that your customer or prospective customer has to choose from out of everything out there, then you need to fix it.
Yeah.
Either get out of the business or fix it.
You're in trouble.
Now, if you believe it, and you really truly do believe it, then you have a moral obligation to that customer or that prospective customer to make sure they have every bit of information they need to be able to come to the conclusion whether or not that product or service is right for them at this particular time. I'm not trying to say force it down them or try to sell them anything. I'm saying that you need to make sure they have all the information that's necessary so they can make the choice that's right for them, right? That's not selling, that's providing information, letting them be selective about whether or not it's right for them. How do you do that? You've got to get your message into the marketplace. You've got to let people know who you are and what you have to offer, and more importantly, how that thing will benefit them. There's no value in being the best kept secret in town. Right. No value whatsoever.
Yeah, and be a solution provider. Provide solutions to people. That's what people are looking for. A lot of people, they let their product or they let their service become a commodity. Just like you were giving the pizza example. Pizza becomes pizza, becomes pizza, becomes pizza. So if this pizza is $11.50 and now this one became $11.64, some people will go to the cheaper one. Mm-hmm. The you know, it doesn't matter if it's 14 cents or $14 or $1,400 or it doesn't matter. They're just going to go to the cheapest one. You get yourself into that situation, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
Well, you're right, and it's interesting here that it says, as this chairman and CEO of Papa John's said one more time, he says, let's say fuel goes up. We don't like raising delivery charges, but the price of fuel is out of our control, as is Obamacare. Following this news, however, soon-to-be ex-customers are already stating they'll go elsewhere for the pizza needs. Now, that's 11 to 14 cents for a pizza. Right. You're going to go someplace else for that? Come on. I mean, how many times have you been into a restaurant and you see they have a new menu? You know what that means, don't you? That wasn't that the menu got dirty and they had to print a new one. They changed the prices. Yeah. But because you like the food or you like the ambiance or you like the location or whatever, you continue to go back even though they've raised the prices. So I can't believe a lot of people would be leaving Papa John's if they like that pizza for 11 cents. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I suppose there are some to do it.
Well, and there are examples inside of every commoditized business, pizza being one of them, hotels being another one. Everything pretty much, like you were saying earlier, I think you might have said it off camera, but there's nothing really exclusive anymore. And so when you've got something that's commoditized, there are always examples. Even within pizza, I know of an example within the pizza category where they are the highest priced pizza in their town, anywhere around. Not only are they the highest priced pizza, they have a membership program to get in to buy their pizza, and they're busier than anybody else. And they're growing and they're building. So if you are in a business that's commoditized, I work with a lot of guys that sell windows. A window is a window is a window is a window. Well, what can you do to build value? What can you do to make your window not shopped by, and have people make decisions based on on windows. There are $1,500 windows. I was sitting with a guy last night that sells a $1,500 window. Well, then there's ads for $200 windows. This guy's...
It's interesting that you say this, because we were just walking back from the restaurant a few minutes ago, and you looked around and you made a comment. Tell me what you said about the comment you made about the cars and the things.
Well, yeah, actually your comment was the good one, is because you said something like, well, they didn't get the memo. But we walked out of a restaurant, and you look around, it's all high-line $100,000 plus cars. There was one car out there that I was joking, there's probably only 8 of them in the entire country. But you know, we happen to be right now, at this moment, we happen to be in a very, very good part of the country. And they obviously didn't get the memo that there's economic problems out there. The restaurant we went to, very nice restaurant, packed. At lunchtime what's today? On a Friday.
Packed, but here's the interesting thing. As we were walking out, you stopped and talked to the person there, the receptionist.
Oh yeah.
And what was your conversation about? This is awesome.
Oh yeah. So there are these lockers behind the reception. What do they call that? The reception counter, where you come in and you check in for your reservation. And so there are these little lockers, and inside the lockers there are cases of wine. So there are people that buy a case of wine from this restaurant, and when they buy the case of wine, they get a locker, and they get a little nameplate on the locker. So it's like, that's nice, you know. I have my wine there. I send people down there. Right.
You can send a client there, go down and have lunch or have dinner on me, and tell them, you know, that you have permission to go into my private locker and have my private wine.
Right.
Now, if you're a business owner, look, if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur or something, and you have an impressive client and you can't make it for dinner, or maybe they come in from out of town, send them over there for dinner, have them buy dinner, have them get into your private wine locker, have it ready to go. Your name is on the lockers for everybody to see. That's a prestige kind of a thing. We walk out, there's Mercedes and Lexuses all over the place, and then there's this. And I look over and I said, there's an Aston Martin. And Brian says, yeah, it's not just a regular Aston Martin. That's the family edition.
Right,
it's like a 4-door Aston Martin. I mean,
Yeah.
this is like an awesome car. And there were a bunch of them. My point is this. There are people out there who are making it in this economy, in every kind of business. If you're not making it in your business, there's a reason. And it isn't necessarily the economy. It's how you're looking at and how you're reacting to and responding to what's going on in the marketplace. So you need to take control of your situation and make sure you're doing everything you can to establish the value that your business or your product or your services can create for your customers, and talk in terms of the benefits for them, giving them solution-solving answers to the problems and challenges they have. It's simple. Really, you need to get out there and make sure something happens, and take this as an opportunity and be proactive about making it happen.
Yeah. Thank you, Martin. That's great advice, as always. And maybe we'll have a follow-up to this a year from now, and see where we are a year from now, and get new advice. But no, this is all very valuable advice, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you having me with you today. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.